The Amityville Horror, a tale of fear and tragedy. It was a cold, dark evening in November 1974, when the DeFeo family's life was violently and tragically cut short. The quiet suburban town of Amityville, New York, was about to become the setting for one of the most chilling and controversial stories in American history. The once peaceful neighborhood was about to bear witness to unspeakable horror, a tragedy that would later ignite a terrifying legend, the Amityville Horror. The DeFeo family lived in a large, Dutch colonial-style house at 112 Ocean Avenue. They were an average American family, parents Ronald Sr. and Louise, and their 5 children, Don, Deborah, Ronald Jr., nicknamed Butch, and the 2 younger children, Mark and John. The family had moved into the house just a few years before the gruesome events took place. But beneath the surface, things were far from ideal. Butch DeFeo, the oldest son, had a history of troubled behavior. He was known to be temperamental, prone to fits of rage, and reportedly struggled with drug and alcohol addiction. In the early morning hours of November 13, 1974, Butch, armed with a .35 caliber rifle, methodically and brutally shot and killed his entire family while they slept. He shot each of his parents and his 4 siblings while they lay defenseless in their beds. The killings were both calculated and terrifyingly quiet. No screams were heard, no signs of struggle. The victims were all found face down, making the scene even more disturbing. After the murders, Butch calmly drove to a nearby bar, where he reported the killings to his friends, initially claiming that he had found his family dead. But as investigators began to piece together the crime scene, the truth came out. Butch DeFeo was arrested and charged with the murders of his family. He confessed to the killings, though he later claimed that voices in the house had driven him to do it. The murder trial was sensational, with Butch's defense team arguing that he was insane at the time of the killings due to the alleged supernatural forces that haunted the house. In 1975, Butch was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. The brutal DeFeo murders were shocking enough on their own, but what happened next would turn the house on Ocean Avenue into a place of legend. A year after the murders, in December of 1975, the Lutz family, George, Kathy, and their 3 children, moved into the DeFeo family home. The Lutz family, unaware of the house's grisly history, was initially excited to start a new chapter in their lives. They purchased the home for a fraction of its value, given its history. Little did they know, they were stepping into the center of something far more sinister. From the moment the Lutz family moved in, they began experiencing strange and terrifying events. The first signs were subtle: unexplained cold spots, the smell of rancid odors, and odd noises like footsteps when no one was around. But things soon escalated. George Lutz began to have strange visions, and his behavior became erratic. He would often wake up at 3:15 a.m., the exact time the murders had been committed, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and unease. Kathy Lutz also began experiencing terrifying phenomena. She would sometimes see a strange, greenish ooze leaking from the walls, and at times, her children would speak of seeing ghostly apparitions or being terrified by a mysterious, unseen presence. One of their children even claimed to see a demonic figure with glowing red eyes lurking in the house. The most frightening event occurred when the Lutz family was visited by a priest, who had been called to bless the house in an attempt to rid it of the malevolent forces they believed were haunting them. The priest, Father Mancuso, was reportedly struck by a strange, invisible force while attempting the blessing. He later claimed to have heard voices telling him to get out. The paranormal activity in the house was relentless. Doors would slam shut by themselves, furniture would move, and at one point, Kathy Lutz was even thrown across the room by an unseen force. The family's once peaceful life was quickly being torn apart by the supernatural occurrences, leading them to flee the house after just 28 days. After the Lutz family moved out, the story of their terrifying experience was brought to the attention of the media. In 1977, they published a book about their experiences, titled The Amityville Horror, which was later turned into a movie in 1979. The Lutz family's account of their hauntings sparked a media frenzy, and the house at 112 Ocean Avenue became notorious across the country. People from all walks of life were captivated by the story, eager to visit the infamous site where such chilling events had occurred. Despite the Lutz family's dramatic account, skeptics were quick to question the validity of their story. Many believed that the Lutz family had fabricated the haunting as a way to cash in on the notoriety of the murders. Some suggested that the family's experience was a result of the trauma they experienced from living in a house where a mass murder had taken place, rather than any supernatural influence. Others speculated that the family had exaggerated or even invented the events for publicity. In the years that followed, the Amityville horror story continued to evolve, with multiple movies, documentaries, and books adding to the lore. Over time, the house itself became a symbol of fear and fascination for those intrigued by the supernatural. Despite the many investigations and media attention, the true nature of the events that transpired at 112 Ocean Avenue remains shrouded in mystery. In 1977, the house was sold to new owners, and over the years, it has undergone several renovations. In an effort to distance the house from its grisly past, the distinctive eye-shaped windows on the second floor were removed, and the house was sold again in the early 2000s. Yet, the legend of the Amityville horror endures, a dark chapter in the history of a small town that has captivated the imaginations of people around the world. The murders of the DeFeo family remain an unsolved puzzle in some ways, with lingering questions about Butch's motives and his claims about the influence of supernatural forces. As for the Lutz family, their story remains one of the most well-known paranormal cases in modern history, a tale that continues to raise eyebrows and spark debates about what truly happened in that house. Was it the site of a horrific tragedy? Or did the house itself hold an evil power that drove the DeFeo family to murder and the Lutz family to flee in terror? 2. The Amityville horror is more than just a story. It is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within seemingly ordinary places. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the tale of the Amityville horror remains one of the most compelling and enduring mysteries of our time.